Hello everybody, welcome to Command. This is TV Boy, and we have some more Season 6 spoilers to look at. It is Friday, July 16th, and we have had 3 new spoiler articles drop since the last video I put up. But actually, before we go into those spoiler articles, I want to talk about an update that was made to the squad upgrade rules. So, for those that don't remember, the squad upgrade cards are the attachments that were added in Season 4 that add a figure to a group. And of course, there's at least one new squad upgrade in Season 6 that we know about. Um, anyway, the rules have been updated for squad upgrades because of the new Flametrooper that is being added that can go into any group that has a different figure cost. There was some confusion about how figure cost and like reinforcement cost is being referenced with squad upgrades. So the steering committee, in collaboration with myself, I helped out with updating this article, but the steering committee made the decision to update the rules so that now any card that references figure cost, like Call the Vanguard, or reinforcement cost, like reinforcements, of course, will reference the cost of the squad upgrade. So, if the squad upgrade, if the squad upgrade costs 4, then the figure from that squad upgrade will have a figure cost of 4 and a reinforcement cost of 4, and that's regardless of the figure cost and reinforcement cost on the base group. So, of course, if you attach a 5-point Flametrooper to like a Riot Trooper group, you can't reinforce the Flametrooper even though you can reinforce the Riot Troopers, but you can play Call the Vanguard with the Flametrooper even though the Riot Troopers cannot. So I think that simplifies things a lot. I think there were reasons that the original ruling was done the way it was done. It's just it didn't affect anything because, originally the original squad upgrade was the Mortar Trooper, which could only be attached to a group that had the same figure cost as it, and so that didn't mess things up. But now that the Flame Troopers come out, it's 5 points for Flame Trooper, and you could put it on a group that with 4-point figures and 3-point figures, and it really made things confusing. So great upgrade to the rules there. Really good move on the steering committee's part. I do want to quickly talk about the Flame Trooper too, because something I didn't talk about with it when I was talking about it in the last video is how well I think it's going to interact with Riot Troopers, and I think it's going to find a really great place in a Imperial Strain list. This is the kind of list we've seen before with Riot Troopers and Thrawn, to basically try to mill out your opponent's deck with the strain from the Riots and then Thrawn's strategize discarding cards automatically. Now, of course, it has Captain Taro, who can use Flamethrower, that was updated for Season 5 and has been doing quite well in the competitive tournament scene, whereas he had fallen off previous to that. And I think these Flamethrowers are going to add a lot. This is actually a list I just put together in the list builder that has room for 10 points to Flametroopers. And the Flametroopers are going to just do so much strain with their Incinerate and their Napalm tokens. They're also really burly. They get in there and brawl, and the priority target ability is super good for getting into a scrum and knife fighting with them. So yeah, I think these Flametroopers are going to see play in Imperial Strain lists for sure. All right, let's move on to the first spoiler that was spoiled on since this first video came out. This was spoiled on Wednesday, and this is a new version of Katoon. So Katoon, released in Heart of the Empire, was dropped from 7 points to 6 points in the original ISCP project, but she still didn't see a ton of competitive play or competitive success. She did get played, but she just wasn't winning a lot. So looks like the steering committee decided to give her a facelift here. Back up to 7 points for a trooper leader, 11 health, 4 speed, blue-green ranged attack with black defense dice. She has keyword professional, which is another, for those who didn't see the first video, the professional, efficient travel, and there's one more. Priority target abilities are being moved up to the top where the other attack abilities are to save space, which is really nice. So professional lets her re-roll when she's attacking. She's got surge for +2 damage, surge for +3 accuracy. Now she has arms distribution, which is an upgrade on the previous version. So at the start of her activation, she distributes 2 power tokens of any types among 2 friendly figures within 3 spaces. Excuse me. Then she has Dead Precise. When a friendly figure within 3 spaces spends a power token while attacking, apply Pierce 1 and -1 dodge the attack results. So again, an update to the original Dead Precise. And finally, she has Squad Cohesion. When a friendly rebel figure within 3 spaces declares an attack, it may spend a power token from a friendly rebel figure within 3 spaces of itself for its effect. So this is a really cool power tokens commander, basically. I think they did a really good job leaning into Katoon's kind of campaign kit, where she is very power token focused, and she does a lot of neat things with power tokens. Um, Squad cohesion, I love that ability. It's very fun when you can kind of like use your power tokens how you want amongst your figures. It reminds me a lot of like the Vulture droids in X-Wing, how they have network calculations and they can share tokens. But I like that it can only be used on offense because it's really annoying when it's used on defense. And you can just have one figure like sucking up defensive tokens from all the friendly figures around it. That gets really annoying, especially since target priority becomes a pain. You can't target anything without it having a power token. So I love that it's only on attack, and it kind of like creates this interesting bubble where she can reach out to a figure 3 spaces away, who can then reach out to another figure within 3 spaces of itself. So it creates this interesting kind of cascading effect. Dead Precise seems very strong to me. I mean, I get it. I get why it got updated, of course, because, when you're only affecting dodge results, and those are only like less than half of figures have white die, or maybe half, and then that's only if they roll the dodge, so it's like a 1 in 6 that'll actually do something. Having it be Pierce 1, in addition to that, means that it will always have an additional effect. This reminds me a lot of Krennic's ability. Director Krennic had the Unhinged ability, which when you spend, when a friendly figure spends a power token, they basically double the effect. So +1 damage comes +2. This is effectively doing that, since if you're spending a +1 damage token, you're going to deal an extra damage with the Pierce 1 most likely. But it doesn't cost a strain, which, makes sense because Katoon costs 7, Krennic costs 5, so Katoon's more expensive. So I think that makes sense. I think the thing that does worry me about this Katoon is arms distribution. Um, the fact that she can distribute it among 2 friendly figures, any 2, so she doesn't have to give it to herself. She can give it to any other 2 figures in the list. And by the way, this is a different from the original in that the original only gave uh, 1 token out, and it couldn't be any token. But the original did give a damage power token, which I think is going to be the most problematic part, is giving damage power tokens to figures in addition to focus, like Han Solo, um, other hard-hitting long-range figures, uh, you know, Alliance Rangers, stuff like that. So when you can double up easily damage power tokens with focus. I remember when we were designing season 4 with Jyn Erso, we made the decision that it was better to give surge tokens because being able to just give out damage tokens every turn might be problematic with focus. Now, with Cassian, that came out in season 5, that was a one-shot ability that just happens once at the beginning of the mission, and then it stops. So you can't keep out giving tokens to the one fig, like to your Han Solo each turn. But we saw in the season 5 tournaments how strong Cassian with Han Solo is. Being able to give your Han Solo and your Jyn Odon, the smuggler, a power token on top of a focus is really spikes their damage output, and being able to do that every turn to multiple figures is going to be very strong. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on Katoon, but I like this Katoon. I think this looks very good, and I like that this Katoon has really her own identity compared to like Cassian. I think a lot of people were saying that Cassian kind of replaced Katoon, but this Katoon definitely does things that Cassian cannot, and in a very interesting way that is very unique to her. So love it. Moving on to the next Rebel spoiler, we've got an updated CT-1701 Wildfire. This is the old clone trooper hero that was released in Tyrants of Lothal. And the original CT we can look at, I think it was 6 points actually. Oh no, he's 7. 7 points. He had Barrage and pinned them down. So the new version still has Barrage, which I think is the same actually. So you can perform 2 attacks. Oh, let's go over his stats. So he's a Trooper Guardian. He is 6 points, 11 health, speed 4, range attack of blue, green, green with a black defense die. Surge for +1 damage, surge for gain 1 damage power token, and surge for +2 accuracy and weaken, which is the same kit, actually the same surge kit as his original card. And it's not a very good surge kit, but let's take a look at the abilities. So Barrage, perform 2 attacks with 1 action. The target of the second attack must be within 3 spaces of the first target space and adds 1 white die to the defense pool. So that means you can actually attack the same figure twice, or you can attack a different figure. But they get a white die for the second attack. And then Cover Fire. So this is a new ability. I believe this is an upgrade to pin them down. So after you resolve an attack, distribute 1 damage power token to a friendly figure within 3 spaces. Then if it did not miss, you may discard 1 condition or power token from the target. So that's nice. They added that you get a block token, which I think is part of his campaign ability. So that's great. I love that they're leaning into campaign for inspiration with these figures. And then if it didn't miss, you discard 1 condition or power token. So that combines with Barrage really nicely. It means he's going to be giving out 2 block tokens with each Barrage, and he's going to be potentially stripping focuses. So very strong looking. 11 point health for 6 points. Looks very strong. I think the only thing that's going to hold this back and keep this in check really is surge for +1 damage as the only damage surge on a blue, green, green. So he's going to either over surge or have a very underwhelming first attack, but then he's going to have power tokens on the second one, so that might help. But yeah, he looks quite good. Guardian is great. Gives him access to stuff like Iron Will and what's that? Get Behind Me command cards, as well as parry. So if he can give himself a block power token with Cover Fire. So block power token combined with parry can make him quite sturdy and tanky, as well as Iron Will for later. So yeah, this looks good. And then of course he has his Wildfire command card, which is very strong. Lets him remove 2 defense dice from the target. So if he's attacking something like Vader or General Weiss or any of those Imperial figures, or he can use it on his second Barrage attack to remove the original defense die as well as the white defense die. So I think he'll see quite a bit of play. Hoping we'll see more Guardian lists in Rebels, especially with Mara Jade from Season 5 being a Guardian in Rebels, and maybe some more Obi-Wan, or maybe some Chewbacca. I think he'll fit nicely into a Guardian list. Alright, moving on. The next spoiler we have is for Scum, and this is Miggs Mayfeld. So he is from the Mandalorian TV show. He's actually in Season 1. He's in an episode, but I think he features as well in Season 2. And let's take a look at him. He is 7 points for a Smuggler Trooper. I believe the first Smuggler Trooper in the game. He has 10 health, speed 4, blue, green, yellow, and range attack, and a white defense die. So health a bit low for the points cost, but let's see what he does. He's got +1 accuracy built in. He also has gain 1 damage power token built in. That does not require a surge, and from what I've been told, that actually triggers after the attack resolves, so he'll gain that after he finishes attacking. He also has surge for Pierce 2 and gain 1 power token of any type, and then surge for +1 accuracy and +1 damage. So decent surge kit with the Pierce 2 and +1 damage. Let's look at his abilities. He's got Droid Arm. Before you declare an attack, you may discard a power token to draw line of sight to the target from a space adjacent to you. Wow, so let's look at the other ones. Guns Out. After an attack targeting you is resolved, you can interrupt to perform an attack targeting that attacker. Apply -1 damage to the attack results, limit once per round. So very similar to Han's Return Fire. And then Fast Talker. While defending, you may discard a power token to apply either +1 block or +1 evade to the defense results. So very strong abilities. Let's go through them. Droid Arm. So it lets you draw line of sight from a target from a space adjacent to you. So they point out this is similar to Arcing Shot, but it's kind of the reverse of that. So instead of targeting a space adjacent to the target, he gets to kind of pretend he's one space further than he actually is to draw line of sight. So that is actually a very powerful ability. It's kind of like getting an extra movement, or actually extra 2 movement points, because you don't have to move back into the space to get back into safety. And he can discard any power token to do that. So he could discard like a block power token, or he could discard, any power token and still spend a power token. So if he has 2 power tokens, he can discard 1 for Droid Arm and then discard 1 for the regular bonus effect. So that's quite strong. It's also going to make it very difficult to not trigger his Guns Out ability if he has power tokens on him, which is, like we said, basically Return Fire from Han. However, the thing holding this or keeping this in check is the -1 damage. So that is definitely a suppressant on this. It's going to keep this from being, I think that would be too strong on a 7-point figure, if not for that -1 damage. That's going to keep it in check for sure. And then Fast Talker, this is actually really strong. This is stronger than I first realized when I first looked at this card, because what it's doing is, instead of him having to spend a block power token up front before the dice are rolled, he can actually wait till after dice are rolled and then discard any power token. Doesn't have to be block a defensive power token. He can discard it to add an additional pip. Like if there's only 1 surge in the attack dice pool, he can discard it to add that surge block that he needs to stop the opponent from getting like +2 damage bonus. And he can do that in addition to a regular defensive power token spend. So if he has 2 power tokens, one's a block power token, he can spend the block power token on defense and then use Fast Talker in addition to that and spend any power token to add another defensive pip. So that low health is making a lot more sense now when you look at it like that. This is really cool. Much like Katoon, I think this is a really cool design where it's using power tokens in ways we haven't seen, and it's like you have this like resource management game with this figure where his abilities require you to spend power tokens, but he can only get power tokens through certain abilities. I guess most of the time he's going to be reloading up to 2, but he can only use 2 at a time, so he can't like Fast Talker and double up with power tokens defensively and then have power tokens for like Droid Arm and Guns Out with Droid Arm. So it's going to be really interesting, like resource management with him, kind of managing your power tokens and keeping him stocked up and using them, deciding how you want to use them is going to be really interesting. And he does have a unique command card that was introduced with him. This is going to be a bit of a spoiler for season 2, but I'm not going to talk about what it's referencing. Honoring the Fallen is a 2-point card. Used when you declare an attack to apply +1 damage to the attack results for each defeated friendly figure to a maximum of 3. So could be as strong as Assassinate if you have 3 defeated figures. Most of the time, I think it's probably going to be more like +2 damage, and that's going to be much later in the game. Yeah, this card seems pretty good. For 2 points, I think you're hoping to get at least +2 damage by the time you're needing to play it. It can be stuck in your hand if you get it early, and it could be. I don't think you're going to be getting the +3 all that often, but sometimes you will. It does mean that you need to keep Biggs Mayfield alive. So you can't be super aggressive with him in the early game. If you're hoping to get some use out of this card, you really want to keep him back and keep him alive, which again is very thematic to the character. He is the survivor of Burning Khan. He's a survivor, so he wants to stay alive to the end game where he can play this card. So fantastic theme there. Decent command card. I don't like command cards that, personally for me as a player, I dislike having command cards that are dead early in the game. But if you are willing to wait, this can be very powerful. Like having an extra +3 damage ability on a command card is super strong. So if you're patient and willing to wait, this can be a very powerful command card. All right, and then finally, the article that was just dropped this morning is Droids article, and these are again another Mandalorian card, which I believe is a theme of this season 6. We have the Dark Troopers Mark III, and again, a little bit of a spoiler, but these are from Legends also, I believe. So these are droid troopers, 6 points for 10 health, speed 4, blue green, or excuse me, a blue red range attack, and a black defense dice. They have surge for +2 damage and a surge for +2 accuracy and pierce 1. So great surge abilities, can't really ask for more than that, unless you're a Jedi. And then we have 3 abilities. So first is Advanced Targeting Computer. When you declare an attack, you become focused. So that explains the 2 attack dice on a 6-point figure. So really it's a blue, red, green attack. During this attack, you may re-roll 1 attack die. If the re-rolled die has fewer damage symbols than before it was re-rolled, apply +1 damage to the attack results. Then we have Durasteel Fist. Once during your activation, you may choose 1 adjacent figure or object and roll 1 green die. That figure suffers damage equal to the damage results. Then, if you rolled a surge and the target was a figure, you may push that figure up to 1 space. And then finally, we have Special Action Liftoff. Move up to 4 spaces. During this movement, you gain mobile. So really cool card. I remember when this was first submitted during Season 5 design. I think it was a multi-figure card. I like that they made it a single figure. This is going to be really interesting in Empire lists to give them a little more activation control. But let's talk about these abilities. So Advanced Targeting Computer is really interesting. You can reroll an attack die if it has fewer symbols. Okay, so I see what they're doing here. The interesting thing about rerolls in Imperial Assault is the dice results are not binary like they are in a game like X-Wing where you either hit or you miss. A lot of times you'll have a die result that you could do better, like 50%, you could get a better roll, but then there's that like 1 in 6 that you have a worse roll. Like especially with the red, like if say you've got 2 damage showing on a red die, you could re-roll and have a 50% to either show 3 damage or 2 damage and a surge. But then there's that 1 in 6 you re-roll and you get the 1 damage pip. And it's like, oh, why did I do that to myself? I made my attack worse. This is nice because it covers you. It says if it has fewer damage than before it was re-rolled, you get to apply +1 damage to the attack results. So that's really cool. I'm trying to think if it could actually make a worse roll better. It doesn't have a yellow die. That's the only way I could think that might happen. You could actually re-roll the 3 damage pip on the red and get the 2 damage and a surge and then have an extra damage result. So that's the only thing I can think of that would let you do that. I guess the blue might do that. No, I don't know. Oh yeah, I guess the blue. If you have the 2 damage result on the blue and you reroll and you get the damage and the surge, you'll then have a 2 damage and surge result, which is better than your original roll, even though tech sort of got worse. But that's really fun. I love abilities like that. You know, I loved Lando, one of the ones I designed. Very similar, where the more knowledge of dice you have, the better you can use this ability to your advantage. And then Durasteel Fist, that looks really good. It's kind of like a bonus attack almost, where you're doing extra damage without needing to spend an action. And then you can actually push a figure. I worry about pushing figures. There's a lot of pushing figures now in ICP, and it can get a little out of hand. But you know what? This is in Empire. I don't think we've seen a lot of figure pushing in Empire yet compared to the other factions, so this should be fine. And then Liftoff's really cool. I like that they did that. I love that they didn't just give it mobile, because I think that would have been pretty annoying with a figure like this. But they can kind of be mobile by just like flying and then landing. It's very true to the source material. If you've seen the episode where they're featured in, they kind of do that. They don't just hover and fly. They like turn into jet planes and and fly. But then when they need to stop, they have to land and then walk like normal. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, I like this. I like this design. I will be interested to see how it's used. I think there's not been a whole lot of droid love in Empire, so hopefully we'll see some more droid lists getting used in Empire with this. And then they did reveal one more command card. This is a buffed command card from the core set, actually, I believe. This is Expose Weakness. This is a 0-point command card that can be used by any figure. And it says, use during your activation to choose an adjacent hostile figure. The next attack targeting that figure gains Pierce 3. So that is kind of crazy. I think the original version actually cost an action. Yeah, so it's from the core set, and yeah, it does exactly the same thing, but it costs an action. So not costing action is a huge improvement for this card, and it actually kind of works a lot differently than I think it was intended to in the original core set. I think the original intention was you're supposed to have a cheap figure run up and kind of sucker punch somebody with this card, and then the next figure that attacks that card will get the bonus. But really this, I think you're just going to use this on your figure's attack, so you're going to have your figure run up, play this, and then attack that figure and have Pierce 3. Seems very strong to me, but there is, as I think about it, there are diminishing returns on Pierce. You know, you can only pierce so much before the opponent just doesn't have blocks to pierce anymore. You have to do this before you attack, so before you see what the defense roll is going to be, so they could have, you know, they could just roll a 1 block and then you're like, okay, I got Pierce 1 out of this. You don't get to like optimize it by waiting to see what their dice roll looks like. You also have to be adjacent, so it's not like you can just, it's not like this is just element of surprise where you can use it on any attack. It has to be most likely going to be on like a melee attack. And I see this as a very nice queen killer. Definitely more answers to Vader is always great. Vader is always a strong, powerful force in the meta, and this looks like a really good card against Vader. A way to overpower Zillow technique for sure. So yeah, actually, I'm kind of on board with this card. At first I was like, this looks really strong, but there are quite a few caveats that make this card seem balanced. Powerful, but balanced, I think. So I think this is going to be okay. It'll be interesting to see how it does in the playtest league. So anyway, that is all the spoilers for this week for Season 6. So looking great. I am enjoying the content so far. I have seen a lot of it in advance since I was helping the steering committee over the weekend with a lot of these, so getting these images made. But I am very much enjoying being a part of the audience, just getting to kind of see the cards in their final state without having seen all of the background conversation going into their design, just kind of thinking about how they were made, how powerful they're going to be. It's been a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoy Season 6. There are going to be more spoilers coming up next week. Keep your eyes peeled, and also remember there is a free tournament on Vassal on July 24th. Make sure you sign up for that. Go to ia-continuityproject.com to sign up. All right, peace out, everybody.